Heck yeah, 1.8 has been a blast so far. Playing a bunch of Sky, not a lot. Playing a good amount, I'm still playing a lot of Catherine, I'm still loving her. And then I just threw down a whole bunch of glory. I cleared out all that glory. I've been saving up over 10,000 glory and cleared out one of the glory boxes, opened up some ice box. I got a bunch of new skins. I got 4 new skins. I got Jewel Tier 2. I'm still so far away from Jewel Tier 3. If Super Evil wants to hook it up with Jewel Tier 3, I'm not going to turn that down or anything. I'm just saying. I got Bug Pedal 1 and 2 from cards. I also got Glaive Tier 2 as well. So, I got 4 new skins. I'm rocking. They're looking good on the fold right now. And I'm having a lot of fun with the game at the moment. All the changes, figuring it out. We've been testing out Saw in some different team comps. You don't just have those in-select Saws anymore. Don't worry about dodging if someone picks Saw. Saw is still worth it right now. He can dish out the damage right now. The buff that you don't get now from the Kraken if you take damage is just kind of crazy. Those fights are out of control right now. I don't know if anyone else is just having some weird fights happening there right now, and not taking Kraken as often now is kind of coming up. So a lot of fun stuff and very different. It's a exciting time for the game, especially since VGL just kicked off and the VIPL is coming to a close here soon, and those games have been really intense, and it's a fun time to be playing this game. And I'm having a blast doing the podcast. We did an episode the other week, 46. I grabbed Mexi from Gangstars. We ran down the whole patch 1.8. So if you had any questions about that patch or anything you were confused on, the two of us ran it down, went over it, and just so we wouldn't go through it here on 47 and spend 2 hours on an episode. So I'll give you 2 different episodes, hour each. And yeah, so that's a good one. Definitely go check that out. This week, I got AutoKorrect joining me all the way from Seoul, Korea. It took us some time to, figure out that time change. He's 12 hours ahead, 10 hours ahead from me. So it was a little nuts to figure that out. But we worked it out, and he had a lot to say about the game, a lot of great stuff. So this is going to be a fantastic episode. And I just want to remind everyone, thank you, first off, for listening. But if you want to support the show, if you want to do more, I have a Patreon page set up, shatterthevain.com/Patreon. Head over there, donate if you can. We've got some stretch goal kind of things, so if we make it to these, we'll do some more with the show. Maybe every week we'll have 2 episodes. Maybe we'll lock down a co-host for those other episodes, and more listening to, more Vainglory. So, but thank you for everyone who's supporting there, and thank you for everyone who's listening. But let's do it. Let's jump into episode 47.
Shatter the Vain, a podcast about Vainglory.
This is the 47th episode of Shatter the Vain. My name is Brad Chmielewski, and this is a podcast all about Vainglory. Every week, I try to break down the news, gameplay, game tips, and hopefully we all become better players together. And this week, all the way from Seoul, Korea, I have AutoKorrect joining me on this week's episode. Welcome.
Good morning, bright-eyed and bush-tailed.
I know, yeah. It took us a little minute to figure out the time difference and how do we set this up.
Yes, welcome to the global world.
Yeah. Thanks for joining me on this week's episode. For people that haven't seen your stream, especially people maybe in the U.S. here who are either sleeping or just heading to bed as you go live, you want to let them know a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for having me, first of all, and 47 episodes. Wow,
Yeah.
That's a big achievement, man. That's a lot. I know everybody loves your podcast, so very privileged to be here. I stream from Seoul, South Korea, 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. That's GMT plus 9 for a lot of people. So essentially, I think that's 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. PST is when I start. and then
Okay.
go till probably like 10 a.m. PST. So for those on the East Coast, it's probably a little bit more friendly. A lot of people say they watch me while they're going to work or while they're at work
Yeah,
or at
usually.
school and stuff like that. So, well, maybe not school. Don't watch when you're at school, kids. They listen to your teachers
Yeah, I
or stuff.
usually catch like the last game that you're doing. If I jump
Right,
in there, if I have like a minute when I'm like checking
right.
email, it's like, all right, and see you guys later. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, part of it too is that there's so many really good NA streamers as well. So it's really not my target. My target demographic is really Asians, the Asian,
okay,
watchers. And that's not to say I don't appreciate any NA people. It's just that because of the time difference, it makes it a little bit difficult. So, and you got great NA streamers, like DZ and Foul Ferris and all these guys. So,
sure. Are you speaking Korean a lot in your stream, or is it usually all English?
it's usually all English, so it's mainly English-speaking Asians. So a lot of Southeast Asian countries, even Australia is included in there, of course. Australia, New Zealand, also all the ANZAC Pacific, Asia Pacific countries. I do get occasionally a couple Koreans in there, and then I'll respond to them and respond to their questions in Korean,
Okay.
but not so often these
Oh,
times.
cool.
So
Have you always been in Korea, or were you elsewhere?
no,
What's your...
so yeah, so I've kind of lived half in both worlds. I grew up, when I was a kid, I grew up in Korea, and then from basically high school, late middle school onwards, I was in the U.S. So
Okay.
California, so Orange County is where my parents are right
Sure.
now.
Okay.
Yeah, so that explains the American accent.
What brought you
Yeah.
back to Korea,
Shaking my fist at the Lehman Brothers guys.
though?
The global economy, a recession basically
Okay.
downsized my job, and so I decided to come back to Korea and visit some extended family. I've got aunts and uncles and grandparents here.
Nice.
So for me, it was just a chance to kind of rewind and refresh myself, and got a few jobs here, and here I am.
Oh, nice. And then how'd you
Yeah.
get into Vainglory? Like, were you playing other MOBAs? Because I know, like, the video game culture in Korea just is miles, I guess, ahead of the US here, or like it's just a different world. This is the way
Yeah,
to...
I mean, I've been playing video games ever since, Atari 2600 and stuff, so I've been a lifelong gamer. But for me, and I actually originally come from competitive Call of Duty, so
Okay.
I played in CPL and TWL, ranked, and some a lot of ladders there. So basically, semi-professional leagues for Call of Duty. And so I come from FPS background, but the problem I was having is that when you play FPS games, you need to upgrade your computer all the time. So you got to have the best graphics card, you have
Yeah.
everything, and it just got really, really, really expensive. And so for me, I was looking for alternatives because I'm always on the go, and I'm traveling places for work and things. So I wanted something that I could go with, and
Hmm.
with the smartphones and the new iPhones that came out, I saw potential to get into games there. But a lot of the games there were very casual. You're talking Bejeweled and like all these games, right? So I got hooked into originally a lot of these card games like Marvel World of Heroes and
Okay.
a lot of these, type of battle card games. But those were just money sucks. Like
Sure.
I mean, people were spending $5,000 to $10,000 on these cards because you'd get the best deck, and then 2 weeks later come out with better cards, and your deck would be obsolete, and now you need to get those cards.
Yeah, I
But all the
play.
cards you just spend money on, the value went down,
I
like
play
by
a little bit of
75%.
Hearthstone, so it's the same idea, I guess.
Yeah,
But on a...
Hearthstone. Well, and I played Hearthstone too because I thought that okay, it's going to be better, it's going to be more solid because it's Blizzard, and so for the first part, I spent a fair bit of money on getting packs and getting really good decks, and then
Mhm.
it was all good for a while, and then suddenly, boom, they come out with boom more and more and more cards, and that's when I
Yeah.
dropped Hearthstone because
And then
then I
if
figured, okay, it's just doing the same exact thing. I'm not going to do that.
and then it gets
But
faster and faster too. Like as
yeah,
it's a
like Magic the Gathering back in the day was the same thing. Like when I first started playing Magic when it came out, right?
okay.
And so you had the first and second expansion decks for a long time, like for a couple of years, and then suddenly they got the idea that we can make more money by just doing pack expansions all the time. But then they also changed the rules, and so after that, it just got to be too much for me. But yeah, I dabbled in Heroes of Order of Chaos a little bit, but
Okay.
I saw the TV ad for iPhone 6 for Vainglory.
Yeah.
I'm a big Apple fanboy, so
The Justin
I figured if it was
Timberlake
good enough
one.
for Apple,
Okay.
it was good enough for me. So I
And-
tried it, and now I'm hooked.
yeah, and it seems like you're like firsthand seeing Vainglory blow up over there now too with the VIPL, which I'm sure we'll get into here in a minute. But yeah, it's gotta be pretty exciting.
Yeah, the Seoul World Invitationals, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that was a big thing. I was fortunate to be able to actually be there in person, and unfortunately, my face is shown on a few shots in the actual videos. I'm basically doing the same thing every time, just going, yeah, like this.
Everyone just cheering, like nodding. Yeah, it looks.
It's like, that's it. That's all they capture.
How is mobile gaming like thought of in Korea? Is it like seen as like a actual like competitive thing, or is it still just like a for kids? I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the interesting thing is, mobile has been such an integral part of everyday life for Koreans. I mean, it's there, it's ubiquitous. They don't think of it as, okay, mobile and PC.
Okay.
But as far as gaming goes, gaming industry has such a stranglehold in terms of PC gaming that you don't even really have consoles here.
Oh,
So there
okay.
isn't really a culture of console gaming. I mean, they have a bit, but Koreans, the way we like to do stuff is always in groups and communities. So that's why everybody eats out, everybody drinks out. No, there's no such thing as house parties. So
Oh,
one
okay.
of the first things I get in Korea, my Korean friends are like, "Dude, you should have a house party. I've never had an American house party." And it's like, for us, it's like, whoa, you always, have house parties and stuff,
Yeah.
especially in college, you go over to the dorms and stuff,
Yeah, it's
but they
way
don't have that
cheaper.
here. Yeah, way cheaper. So that was the thing. So it's the same with gaming too. So they've got like gaming cafes where they're basically LAN setups
Hmm.
and people play games there. And they have a few for console games, but the PlayStation cafes and stuff. But it's not really that widespread. So
Okay.
it's all pretty much PC gaming, PC gaming, PC gaming.
Cool. So the new mobile gaming kind of fits in with that culture of like, hey, we can all get together and go out and do this
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, it does. And Wi-Fi speeds at a lot of places are pretty decent, like at coffee shops and stuff. So you can do that. Um, But as far as the competitive gaming scene, it's as new as it is anywhere, pretty much.
Okay. Very
Yep.
cool. Well, before we get into the news here, I like to ask, like, who is your favorite Vainglory hero? Like, who do you like to play, or even
Oh,
like, what role do you play the most? Like, people love to just kind of know, like, I play the guy
yeah.
AutoKorrect plays.
Well, I consider myself an all rounder, so I've learned pretty much all the heroes. The only heroes I don't play or touch is pretty much Adagio, Petal, and
Okay.
Fortress. But I do main a few heroes pretty often, which is Arden and Catherine, Taka and Koshka, Glaive, Vox and Ringo are pretty much the heroes that I would main
Okay.
pretty much constantly, depending on what my team needs. But personally, I really like Assassins because I like the finesse play that it involves with Assassins and the fact that there's a
Okay.
level of risk whenever you do an engagement, but yet you're the one who can seal the kill or make that
Yeah.
important kill so that can suddenly change the tide of the game battle in your team's favor. And I like the fact that a lot of them are built with upfront damage, so your consistent
Hmm.
damage output is reliable. You can build something, say, okay, I know that when I go on this person, I'm gonna get this much damage off their HP,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
you don't have to rely on consistent hitting. You can just say, boom, one shot, one kill, type of a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's always fun. I know I think one of the hated things for a lot of new players is when they get blown up by that
Yeah,
Taka. Like, what the hell? Like,
yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
even see him coming and I'm dead. Like, this isn't
Yeah, and
fair.
historically, Taco is my main.
Okay.
I played since the official launch, actually, way back in November of last year. So that was when Taco was out and pretty strong. And
Nice. Well, let's jump into the news. We got some fun stuff to
yes,
chat about.
Vainglory News.
So the first thing in the news is Vainglory patch 1.8. So I did episode 46. Go back and check that out. We ran through the entire patch note. I like to put that out, rather than spending an hour a couple days later, just go through it right away. It's better. But I wanted to chat about like what you've seen now that this patch has been out and like what you're liking, maybe. Have you played
Yeah.
Sky?
Oh yeah. So how I normally do is when a new hero comes out, I apologize to the world and I announce to everybody that I'll be insta locking that for the next 8 hours.
Okay.
And so that's what I do is I just insta lock Sky. So apologies to everybody who's been affected, but it's important. I wanted to learn it before I streamed it, so I got good 5-6 hours straight in Sky where I only played Sky,
Jeez.
and so I've really dialed down into her, and the conclusion for me, anyways, is it's a great hero, looks great, and obviously it's Korean, so I've got that intangible telekinesis, Korean
Yeah.
blood thing going. So obviously, if anyone's gonna learn how to play, it's the Koreans, right? Um, no, so basically, looks great. I love the gameplay, the mobility of the hero. It's like a mobile Saw slash, some
Right.
of the other characters. You see little glimmers of other characters' traits in Sky, and that's great. I think the way it feels and the gameplay is great. But the hero to me feels very very weak compared to
Oh,
what
okay.
she's supposed to be. So they list her as a sniper, which to me, a sniper and assassin are very closely related,
Yeah.
and so she needs to be doing massive amount of damage in one shot or a burst as a sniper would, because a sniper is one shot, one kill, right? Or in a way, kind of they've listed Vox as a sniper as well too at times because of his ability to jump in and out and be very mobile and get
Hmm.
those really strong shots in, right? Like his ultimate even is you jump in, boom,
Boom.
ultimate, massive damage, get out,
Yeah,
right?
that sniper.
But
Yeah,
with
like
her,
you said, it crosses that like assassin and like ADC DPS kind of hero. This is the sniper
yeah,
role.
yeah, but then when you see her and her skills and how she works, it's a sustained DPS is what actually she
Hmm.
is, where she goes in and and she just puts sustained fire hits on somebody, and then moves and rotates around and does more hits, because you got a 3 second fast cooldown on her A skill, which is just that
Yeah.
constant barrage of fire, right? Um, so for me, the way that they've structured her, she should be more of a sustained DPS. She should almost be like a bruiser, a warrior, somebody like Glaive, where you can initiate a battle, come in, stay long enough to dish out some damage,
And then
and let your other
bounce. Yeah.
teams, yeah. And but she's more mobile, so she's got that going for her. So that is the reason why I think people would choose her over a Glaive or a Rona or somebody else because she's
Hmm.
got that extra mobility. But right now she's so squishy that she dies even faster than Taka and Koshka, but she doesn't deal out any damage. So you can sit there and just hit people, and they'll just shrug her off and be like, "Nah, I
Yeah.
feel a slight tickling on my neck," and then whatever. I've actually had that happen to me. Well, I'll go in with a pretty decent build, Sorrow Blade, 2 times my uncles, or double Sorrow Blade, and hit them,
Okay.
and they'll just kind of, this is late game, everyone's level 12, and they'll just kind of shrug her off and then go after my squishy lane carry.
Okay.
So I think that she needs a fair bit of rework in terms of that. I don't know exactly what they need to do, whether it's a direct damage upgrade or whether it's just simply a little bit better HP scaling for her. But she definitely, I think, needs work if she's going to be considered competitively.
Okay. So you said you were playing her weapon. You also tried, I'm sure, the blue sky that everyone's calling
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I've tried everything. I literally tried every single build I could, 5 hours, right? I could try pretty much everything. And so I've gone the build where, you rush Broken Myth, you go Eve, you go, Shargos on top of that, or you go
Yeah.
Frostburn first. I've done every combination, and the problem is that if I were to take the same build and I were to put this on Celeste or Scarf or another Crystal hero, even Koshka, the damage output that they would do would be massive. I found even twice as much as what she would do with the exact same build.
Yeah,
And so
that's true.
that to me is kind of the problem right now.
I do feel like she melts turrets though faster than maybe like a Kashka or even a
Yes. Yeah.
Scarf might. Yeah, that's
When
like
you get the auto lock and you hit your A skill and just sit there, she will definitely melt turrets for sure. And I've seen with people with 3 Broken Mist stacks up, I've seen them melt people with the ultimate. But again, the ultimate is, to me, the way I use the ultimate is I don't usually do it right on top of people a lot of times, unless
right.
you've got like a gauntlet or like a an AOE stun. But what I do is I use it to block off an escape a lot of
Sure.
times. So they have nowhere to go and they run into it. If they run into it, then they get stunned, and I can action in on them.
Yeah, because
Um,
especially right now, people aren't thinking of that, and they run into it. They're like, "Oh, I just need to escape. Oh, that slows
yeah,
me down," and so
yeah. Yeah, and the stun duration isn't long. It's 0.5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be almost nice if the stun duration was a little bit longer, maybe to 1 second, an extra 0.5 seconds. I think would be nice. I also think that the auto locking is a bit awkward. So the other problem I have with her is the range. So she's supposed to be a sniper, so she should be able to hit somebody from quite a distance away, but her range is really small. It's really small. So it's like you have to get so close to them to auto lock on them that you basically put yourself in danger of like a blood song or a melee attack,
Yeah, well,
which kind of defeats the whole
Vox
purpose.
same way. He has to get in there so close too.
Yeah, but he's got that A skill where he can kind of dash away, and she's got her B skill, but the B skill has a longer cooldown, and you have to be auto locked first. So you have to get in close to auto lock, then you can use your B skill. So
yeah.
So I think it would be nice if you could just auto lock by tapping the target.
Okay.
So rather than the auto lock happens after you do one basic attack on that target, if you could just tap on that target and have it auto lock, that'd be great. Because then, within a certain radius, of course. Because that would be great. Because then, in the midst of a team battle, you could continually swap auto targets,
switch targets, and
and it just depends on how fast your fingers are would determine.
Yeah, the few times I've played as Sky and with Sky, I don't know where I'm at a lot of the time. I end up jumping right into the fight like I'm not supposed to, and and then I'm all of a sudden dead. I think so. I'm sure that takes a lot of time to get used to, just knowing how to maneuver with the B skill and move around.
Yeah. Because her damage is so light right now, she's almost like a finisher, like an assassin would be, where you need to actually initiate after the initial damage is done on target. So if your lane carry gets an Achilles heel shot and chunks off a big portion of damage on a target, then you move in. So you're not going to be initiating as Sky because you're just going to get eaten out. You're just going to get destroyed quick.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, she's not in every game, which I'm kind of surprised. Which I think kind of goes with what you're saying. Like, I don't think she's like super strong, and it almost seems like Super Evil was a little worried. They don't want these heroes being really strong because Vox came out and he was in 100% of the games, and still is in like 60% of the games now.
Yes, yeah, he's very, very strong. I would say he's about as strong as he ever was. He's super, super strong now.
Yeah, I don't think that changed to him, even though it was a 0.5 resident bounce less. That's whatever. That's nothing. That's almost unnoticeable, really, to most people.
Yeah, but the resonance damage is up. So
yeah,
the resonance damage is actually doing more damage now, even though it's bouncing less amongst less targets with less range. As far as like team-based battles, you really have to be careful of that now because it's so easy for him to 1v3 kiting backwards now or 1v2 because when you're chasing him, most of the time your enemies are packed together. Yeah. So when your enemies are packed together, that resonance bounce damage just can clear them out.
Yeah, it's kind of silly. I'm always just amazed by the Voxes that can just chase people down. It's like, what the hell? No one else can do that. Like,
yeah. He's really a crowd control. And you get somebody who's really good in Vox, and they can just bounce around with their A skill. Because the A skill has a really fast cooldown, so they're bouncing around to resonance damage and just wrecking everybody essentially.
Sure. And then the other big change from 1.8 was Rona being in there. Were you playing Rona at all before? Because now she's in almost every game.
I had the same issues with Rona in a lot of sense, where I felt confused by her position. She was a berserker, and for me, coming from a traditional MMORPG games as well, the berserker is somebody that has a lot of HP and can tank, but also at certain points get a huge power spike of damage and can just go crazy and do massive amounts of damage. And you don't want to be in the way of the berserker. Okay. Now, the problem with Rona I always had was that she was always too squishy to fulfill that role. So she would initiate, and then she would just get killed. And before she could do any of her massive damage. So people were building lifesteal on her, leveraging her blood mist, because that was the only way they could sustain in terms of a battle.
Yeah.
So now what they've done is they've realized that, and they've made the base changes to her so that now she's got like this health barriers and stuff inside of her. So what that's going to do is that's going to actually, and they've reduced the lifesteal by half, 50%. So essentially what they're telling us is don't build lifesteal anymore. You're going to have this health barrier that's going to allow you to stay in the battle. So now start building out more weapon-based things. So I will probably guess, she will do quite well with a lot more closer to glaive builds now, jungle glaive builds with heavy weapon speed, things like that, relying on this health barrier. Now, I haven't really played her too much, so I don't know how much the health barrier actually saves you. We know that they can get OP in terms of what we've seen with Cruel and his
Yeah.
first health barrier that he got with his A skill was just made it invulnerable. So I'm sure they're trying to be careful on that as well. So
Yeah.
I guess we'll have to wait and see how that kind of pans out.
Yeah, but she's been in a lot of games, and she can
Yes.
chase people down and just wreck them. Like all of a sudden they're gone. I've been seeing people build a tension bow on her, and it's like
Yes, because her
like
B skill with that massive the amount of damage she does with the second hit on the B skill, which coincides with how much blood rage you have. If you've got a full blood rage meter, you can take somebody to 50% health in that second hit, or just kill them off. Or in the case if you're playing Sky, you can just one hit Sky, and she will just crumple to a little pile of nuts and bolts, and
oh man.
like crying naked, ashamed on the floor.
You mentioned Cruel's barrier, and you know what? He seems very strong now too because all these health and defensive items have been lowered, so Cruel can just build those now even faster and just stay in fights longer. And
Yeah,
could be a problem.
I think yeah, but in my experience, though, Cruel's always been strong, and he's always been strong. And for me, it's always been the same tactic when you're fighting Cruel: is you got to burst him down and you got to focus on him. And when you do that, and when you realize that he's in the early team comp, and you push and you take a few farms away from him, it really affects him drastically because he's such a slow build. He takes so much gold. He farms slow, even with the swift shooter in the beginning, and so I think it's the same tactic. I think you just got to focus him down, burst him down. You got to have that lane carrier, that damage carrier, focusing in on him. That's another reason when we move into the Vanguard with Arden.
Yeah.
I think Arden, they reduced the cooldown on his Vanguard is going to become more and more popular as well. I think because what Arden's Vanguard does for a lot of characters, like a lot of mages, like Celeste and Scarf, is it allows them to get away from the Cruel who has Shiver Steel on you. So if Cruel goes on a Celeste and hits Shiver Steel, she's slowed and she's basically dead. But if you Vanguard her, she gets that burst of speed and she can actually kite away from him and still drop down Heliogenesises, or in the case of Vox, have the Resonance bounce plus the A skill damage. I've killed a lot of Cruels playing Vox because I'll just continually Resonance A skill. He gets close to me, kite him down, keep kiting back, A skill again to get further away, still kite him down, and he really can't do anything until his A skill's up.
Yeah, I think it's good you mentioned Arden because I did get a message that I kind of shrugged it off as like not a big change to him, but a couple people were like, that's a big deal, and you're going to see people maxing his B now over maybe something else, either the A or the C, and just like doing more damage and adding more to the team.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing some crazy things in the Southeast Asian tournament where I recently shotcasted. You saw a pairing of Catherine and Arden in the jungle. One of them was Arden going weapon, the other one was Catherine going like aftershock and tension bow, which also wrecks, by the way. Just ridiculous. One A skill hit on them and like hits them for like 75% of the HP. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, dude.
But anyways, yeah. So I think that Arden. I've always liked Arden when you've got squishy team comps. When you've got a Celeste in the lane or a Ringo in the lane and a Taka or Koshka in the jungle, because I feel it just allows them to. It's more forgiving, where it allows them to kind of just get in and out a lot easier.
Yeah.
Now, if you're playing really coordinated team in a high level competition, then Catherine might be better because it's more offensive focused and you've got that direct stun at your hand. But for most of the games that I've played casually, or even just solo Q ranked, Arden is a lot more forgiving hero in terms of you don't need that really, really tight coordination with your team.
Good to know. I always like having this stun, so I just have a hard time not picking Catherine. It's just like I just want to stun him, and we're going to try to kill him here. So.
Yep, definitely.
Anything else in 1.8 that's been a huge difference for you? Have you figured out a good jungle rotation yet? Like I've seen people sometimes they start in the back, sometimes the middle. Let's go all the way. It's been all over the place.
Well, in 1.6 patch, I like to grab my second healing minion first, pull that down towards a minion mine, take that, and then be close enough to grab my two backs, and then forget about the bottom two unless they were there. when I
Okay.
rotated back, because I could still get to that healing minion fast enough without wasting too much time. Because if you went all the way to your first two lower minions closest to the jungle shop, you wasted too much time. That's why they wanted you to take the two backs.
Right.
Well, now in this patch they've actually shortened that respawning, or they've lengthened the respawning so that now you can actually pretty much go to your first two and still be okay in terms of time.
Yeah, you just get there now, but you're almost better off, I think, in my experience, taking that middle and either going
Yeah,
to the middle section and maybe trying to steal
yeah,
and then work your way back in or something
yeah,
like that. So
yeah. That's what a lot of people are doing. Some people are still taking the first two backs, but again, for me, that strategy now would have been what it used to be, whereas you only take your first two backs when you want to be in a better position to invade or go and be more aggressive and push forward. I think, but I think some of the more aggressive players are going to go and try to steal at least the bottom two of the enemy side first, and then work their way back.
yeah.
So that's a possibility. Um, Ringo had his twirling
Oh
silver
man.
duration down from 7 seconds at all levels to 4 to 6 seconds.
Yeah, it's been
Um,
pretty big nerf for him. Like he's just
yeah.
not seen as much now.
Although 4 to 6 seconds, so 1 second difference, but can be down to 4 to 6 seconds. So for me, the twirling silver is really important as a Ringo player because there was the only escape you had to
Yeah.
get away from somebody coming on at you. Because a lot of other range characters, have an escape. So Celeste has her core collapse, where she can pretty easily core collapse somebody who's following her
Uh-huh.
to stun them to get away. Vox has his A skill and resonance. So a lot of lane characters have that one skill to escape. He didn't really have anything except for twirling silver, and so now with the duration reduced, my worry is that with the duration reduced now, he's going to be more easier to kill off quicker because he won't be able to run away as easy now. So that's
Okay.
kind of my only worry with that. The twirling silver crystal ratio, not a big deal for me because very few people play crystal on him. So
Yeah, Crystal Ringo is more of a fun thing to do. Like
yeah,
I like to do it
yeah,
on stream and stuff. It's just like,
yeah,
hey, look at how much damage this does. It's
right.
crazy.
It's a recreational thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not doing it.
Saw also I felt big change to him. Only one thing they changed, which was the suppressing fire resets the cooldown of the roadie run. But I think that is really important. I think SCMC's has been doing a really good job of trying to identify characters that aren't really being used in competitive meta and bringing them kind of more and more viable up to that level. I think the last two changes to Saw have really done that, where they've really elevated him from where he used to be. And I'm amazed because I always thought that Saw was a lost cause. I just
Yeah.
thought that he's going to be recreational play. It's never going to be considered in competitive play. But the changes now that they've been doing, really happy with the way that they're incrementing his viability in terms of being more suitable for competitive play. The finishing suppressing fire, resetting the cooldown roadie run is genius because what it does is Saw has always been the problem with suppressing fire because it roots him.
Just stand there.
And
Yeah.
then afterwards, he can't move, so he can't get to the team fight. So if you do your suppressing fire too early, and your team is fighting a little bit distance away, by the time you actually walk close enough to get in range to do any help, they're gone, or they're dead, or they're running away.
Yeah.
So having that resetting the cooldown roadie run, so you can use the roadie run to just quickly get to that area. And I noticed the energy consumption of roadie run is a little bit less as well, so it doesn't
Oh, okay. I didn't
massively
notice
eat
that.
up all your energy. That really helps a lot because now he can really become part of that fight. And he's strong. He's really strong now with that 12 stacks still staying
Yeah,
up.
we've been trying some team comps with him, and I think he's gonna get some play. I think
Yeah.
he's not gonna be the joke of the insta-lock saw idea. Like, oh my god, you got to
Yeah.
dodge that. No, I think you
I
could.
mean, everybody talks about the Sawshank,
Yeah.
Sawshank Redemption, the Crystal Shank Saw build. Wow. I mean, you can do 1,000 to 1,500 with one shank.
Yeah.
It's through shields, and it's viable. Definitely, I think people got to get used to it and work him into a team.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what we've been doing. Like, all right, we got to protect you, and we've even tried weapon and crystal, and they both work out pretty well. If you're good
Yeah,
at landing those abilities, like the suppressing fire and getting those shanks off, then go for crystal. But if you're just like, I'm just gonna auto attack and stand here, then weapon's still the way to go.
yeah. His good weapon crit builds are still really, really strong in him. Now that they fixed some of the bugs that he'd had with not critting and stuff, so that's going to be really, really good as well. But for me, the mobility, again, because I like the assassin playstyle, just always, and then what I do is I actually get a clockwork on him, so I have that shank up even
Even
sooner.
more. Okay.
So I'll go like shattered glass, broken myth, another shattered glass, boots and defense, and then that clockwork, so that I have that shank up almost all the time.
Oh, nice.
And so I don't even use suppressing fire very much. So for team fights, just shank, shank, shank.
Nice.
Mad
Yeah.
cannon.
Man. Okay. Yeah, I haven't even. I've been the guy I've been playing with. He's been playing Saw so much that I haven't got to try
Yeah,
him out this patch. So maybe I'll get a game
he's a
this
lot of fun.
weekend.
He's a lot of fun, and he's got one of the best tier 1 skins as well. I love the Borg Saw skin, where it changes the weapon effects even. I think he's the only tier 1 skin that has a weapon effect change at the tier 1 skin level. So
Okay. Yeah, see, I don't even have any Saw skins. I think he's the one character I don't even have any skins for. That's how little I've played with him and little I thought of him.
me too. But I played him a few times just for recreation, and I went Jungle Shanks on DZ stream once and did pretty well, and so it was pretty,
Nice.
yeah.
Making him proud playing Saw on his stream for him.
He was happy. He was so happy. He was too happy. I was like, okay, whoa, calm down, dude.
Nice. Anything else you've noticed from 1.8 or anything like a big thing that you want people to know or take focus on?
Um, well, I think there have been a couple of small things. I think armor shield items pricing's been tuned. I think pricing in general has been better this time. They've upped the price of fountain. People were spamming fountains a bit too much.
Yeah.
Really happy that they've got a global cooldown system in place. And a funny story about that is when there was actually a meetup in Korea like a few months before the Korea launch happened here, and Bo Daly, who's the CEO, and Domo Furious, who's a Korean community manager, came over and met with myself and some members of Team Invincible Armada, and we spent like 8 hours just drinking, talking about game and feedback. It was really, really awesome that they did
Cool.
that. And one of the things that came out of that was that was when people were spamming crucibles. That was the whole phase where people were just spamming crucibles all the time. Where you had teams stacking 2 and 3 crucibles and fountains and stuff. And so one of the discussions there was this idea of a global cooldown, where if one person hit the active, then it was on a cooldown for everybody. Now they've only done that more of a local version, but it's still really great that how SCMC incorporates this feedback, which is really awesome. So it's loving the fact that I'm seeing some changes that we talked about then being instituted in the game.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, they're listening to the players even on Twitter and things that get mentioned, on podcasts and on in streams and things like that. So
great. Stormguard banner and contraption, which were never used before.
Oh yeah.
Ever have some pricing adjustments to them. I think Stormguard banner now, based on the changes, I think it's actually a pretty. If you're playing a roam or a support character, I think you should consider to upgrade and buy it now because it's cheaper. It's been reduced from $11.50 to $9.50, but it actually does massively more in terms of helping you jungle faster.
Right.
So to me, that's a possibility. Now I'm still not a fan of Warhorn and contraption. Everybody knows I hate support players that rush Warhorns because I still feel that they haven't touched the total price. And the total price of contraption and Warhorn, I still feel are too expensive, and don't really give the benefits, especially Warhorn for me. Like it's a very short duration. It's a 1 second duration. So you just get a very short burst of speed. For me, that's not. I would rather go for a Shiver Steel, which does the same thing but reverse. Instead of going faster, it makes them go slower. Yeah. For more than half the price, it's so good. And the build path for it is Dragonheart. So as a support player, you're building defense in the early game, which means for characters like Catherine or Arnon, who are a little bit squishier in the early game, it makes them really tanky in the early game. So you can fulfill that tank role better. But then you can build out into either a Crucible or a Shiver Steel. So for me, that's a lot more versatile because a Shiver Steel is an offensive item, Crucible being a defensive item.
Yeah.
So you can, at that point, you can be like, okay, how's my team doing? Are they being pushed back or are we pushing the enemy? And if we're pushing the enemy, we go Shiver Steel. If we're not pushing the enemy and they're pushing us, we go Crucible.
Cool. Yeah.
So for me, that's great, and I love Shiver Steel. And for melee character, it's a 2.8 second duration. That's
pretty
that's
good.
for
Yeah.
days. That's for days. You're slowing them for days, and you can hit everybody. So if you basic attack all three enemy, and in a fight you go boom, 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 and you just one hit, one hit, one hit, they're all slowed for that 2.8 second duration.
Okay.
So it's a fantastic item. I love Sugar Steel.
Yeah, they did change the cooldown of contraptions like the charges, which is nice, but I still wanted to have more. I think it should have 5 instead of 3.
Yeah, that would be good. 5 instead of 3. Charge down time 25 seconds to 15 per use, I believe. But still, the end cost, man, the end cost. It's just too much.
If I buy a Crucible, there's probably a talk on the team, and then I'm still like, well, I still need more. There's not enough here. So
yeah. And that's pretty much it for me. I mean, the Iron Guard. Oh, the Iron Guard. The Iron Guard's major change for me because so what happened is like in 1.6 they made the Iron Guard change because they said that we don't want you to worry about last hitting because everybody's complaining about how people don't know how the whole thing about first hitting when you're a support and all this. So they said, okay, we're going to take that away, and you're still going to get pretty much the same amount of gold whether you get the first hit or not as a support, and that was great. I love that.
Yeah. And
so then we're finding, okay, so levels were okay. You're 2 levels behind, 1 or 2 levels behind your jungler. Then they made the change 1.6, and then all of a sudden now I'm 3 or 4 levels behind my jungler, and I was seeing in 1.7, and then I'm seeing a massive level difference where I'm doing the exact same thing I did before, but I'm 3 or 4 levels behind my jungler, and I don't know why. So now in 1.8, they've kind of reversed that, and so now what's happened is now I'm actually 1 level or even as my jungler. So it's fantastic the way it is now because now as a support player, I'm not being killed off early. And you're seeing this even in some of the tournament games where in some of the tournament games you've actually saw the enemy team focusing on the support first because they're level 9 while everybody's level 12. So you kill off the support quick and they can't do any team-based defense for you. Yeah. And then it's a 3v2. And so you're actually seeing that in competitive play, and that was because in 1.7 you just couldn't get the levels, and so I'm really happy they made this change. I'm seeing the levels even off now, 1 level at the most, very even. So in the mid early game, they'll be level 5, I'll be level 5, or I'll be level 4 as a support. So it's really fantastic that they've done that, and I think it will definitely make roamers more likely to be used in games too. Yeah. So you won't see people fighting over who gets to be jungler and laner.
I'm like, okay, I guess I'll support. Like that's fine if you guys don't want it. Okay.
Roam Glaive, Roam Cruel.
Yeah.
Roam Koshka.
Yeah, I'll buy a Iron Guard, and then that's my only roam thing. So
yeah. and then I'll take the last hits on every single.
Yeah. Well, yeah. If you're liking 1.8, I feel like this is a pretty nice patch, and I haven't run into any issues yet. But if you have any thoughts on 1.8, like definitely send me a tweet at Shatter The Vain, and let me know your thoughts. Love hearing what everyone's doing and what they're finding with this patch. It's fun to see. The next bit of news are the tournaments that are kicking off and been going on. I want to mention VGL started this weekend, so that's the Vainglory League. So that's the NA teams and the EU teams started going at it. I think the first 128 teams played on Saturday. So there's I think a lot of games got played, and then it's gonna take place over the course of September and finish up in October here. And this is kicking off for our season 1 qualifier. So that's kind of what this is, and it's great. Vainglory League on Twitch is streaming a lot of the games. Definitely go check that out. I watched a few today, and they were pretty good. Some of them were one-sided. Just the seeds are like kind of extreme at the moment. You got your Vainglorious people going against like a hotness team or something like that, and so they're not the best games at the moment. But later, as we get closer to the finals, they'll be a lot more fun to watch. But then also going on and coming to a close shortly here is the VIPL, and you're on the front lines of this. Yes. So I want to get your thoughts on it. I keep missing the games and have to watch some VODs later, or I forget them.
Because they're broadcasting them live.
Yeah.
So OGN who's doing the whole organization and running this league, and they actually also did the tournament. Seoul tournament is actually broadcasting them live on their TV channel. So they have a cable TV channel dedicated to gaming that they do 24 hours a day here in Korea. So their broadcast times are like 9 p.m., 8 p.m., 7 p.m. Korea time, which, as I mentioned earlier, is similar to my stream times, which would be like 4 or 5 a.m. in the States for West Coast. So yeah, that's a thing for you guys. So, but for me, it's been great seeing the Korean teams come out and seeing, Gangstars there and Hunters is there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, no DB or no, Unknown is there as well.
Yeah.
And no Infamous. But, so 3 out of 5, really good showing. I think they're doing a fantastic job. I think what you're seeing, the good and the bad. So the good is that it's fantastic to see Invincible Armada defending their championship title. And also, losing a game to PQQ, which is interesting in itself.
Yeah.
Another Korean team. PQQ not having competed in the Seoul Worlds,
yeah.
but previously beating Invincible Armada in the East Asia tournament.
Okay.
So that was interesting. So they're back. So, Druid being an amazing laner as well, making his name known. But seeing Gangstars just dominate their bracket and their matches as well. Gangstars not really being tested, which is interesting. So they haven't really been tested, I think, to that great extent. We haven't, which is great for them because when you're not being tested in these matches and you're not being strained, it means you can reserve your trump cards and your ace cards and all your secret weapons, so to speak. Whereas Invincible Armada, having been tested with PQQ already, has had to reveal a couple of their secrets. So I envision Gangstars having a little bit of an edge here going towards this later half of the tournament, with both teams able to now look at the videos and do a lot of homework. I envision that Gangstars is going to be doing a lot of studying of Invincible Armada versus PQQ to understand how did they lose that game, what were their weaknesses in that, because I'm guessing they're probably thinking they're going to be facing PQQ or Invincible Armada towards the second half. Unknown, with that said, Unknown also tough bracket for Unknown, but I think that they've got really good players on their team. I think they could turn it around as well. Of course, a lot of the other Korean teams not very strong. You've got some of these like Hack and these guys, and funny thing is a lot of these actual other Korean teams are. 2 of them, I believe, are Raid and Hack, I believe, are offshoots of Invincible Armada. So they're actually subset teams of Invincible Armada. So they'd be like INVB or INVC teams. Dista, who's one on, I believe, Hack or Raid, one of those 2. He's actually one of the founder members of Invincible Armada.
Oh, nice.
So they've kind of rebranded some of their B and C teams instead of calling it INVB or INVC. They're just giving them different names. But like Wild is in there. So they're a different Korean team as well. So some of these other Korean teams, I think, not quite up to the level of INV, PQQ, Gangstars, Hunters, or Unknown. But I think it's showing the appetite that the Korean public has and the Koreans have for the competitive gameplay, whether it's in mobile or not.
Yeah.
I think the mobile aspect of it is just a massive opportunity. And I envision, if anybody's going to do it up, if anybody's going to go crazy about competitive MOBA mobile gaming, it's going to be Korea.
Sure,
obviously.
I'm sure.
So, you're seeing the setup they have is fantastic. It's professional. They've got Monte, they got Brendan doing the shoutcasting, OGN, LOL shoutcasters for years, and StarCraft shoutcasters. And so they've brought all the stops. They've invested so much money into this. So it's really exciting to see.
Monte Cristo's a crazy good shoutcaster. Just I've seen lots of league games, so I'm very familiar with him. So
right, he sounds like the MLB shoutcast, MLB commentators to me.
Okay,
the Major League Baseball commentators.
Yeah,
they're very academic.
Yeah,
I kind of wish that they would be.
In the color
EPL,
casters.
Yeah, in EPL you always had Martin Tyler, who was always the straight. The call by call guy, the academic guy, and then you had Andy Gray, who would always make stupid comments like, well, if you never buy a ticket to the raffle, you're never going to win.
You need the second guy.
Gotta have that emotion. I think somebody's got to get a bit more emotional when it comes to like those like really good plays. Be like, they're both kind of the same in terms of they're both kind of just yeah, that was a good play, and I liked it when he did that. Oh yes, I liked it when he did that. So they're very
That's
well.
funny. Have you talked to any of the other teams or heard what they're doing besides Inspo Armada? Are they training like all day? Because we got the gangsters who came out there, and I'm sure it's not like a vacation. They're out there to be in this tournament. So I'm curious to know if they're just like, do you play all day? Is it a job? Just training and watching these videos.
Yeah, well, I think some of the members of the teams have full time jobs, so I imagine that limits them a little bit, and they have
Okay.
wives and families and stuff. But I imagine that they are doing a significant amount of homework. The Koreans in general do a lot of research, and there's a lot of research material available for them to research unknown and gangstars
Sure.
and
Yeah.
hunters even now. So I imagine they are really doing a lot. You're seeing that in the pick and bans as well. You're seeing a lot of the smarter bands coming a little bit more on the side of the Koreans, whereas some of the bands from sort of the Western teams or the foreign teams outside of Korea, a bit questionable in some cases. Where in the Worlds, for instance, they didn't ban Ringo and when they were playing Invincible Armada, and
Okay.
Sangho being a world class Ringo player, and so there was some of that. But I think what they've done is they've now improved that, so now they're a lot more closer to picking the characters that some of the key Korean players. But again,
Okay.
you saw in the PQQ match, even they're not banning Vox, and Druid is one of the most top Vox players in the server. So again, there's a little bit of a disconnect there, I think, but partly that's probably because there's not a lot of material for them to study in terms
Yeah.
of the Korean team, the Korean gameplay. They don't share their gameplay a lot of times, specifically because of this. So they're very secretive in terms of their tactics, their builds, and what they do,
Okay.
and they will keep that even from other Korean teams. So
And you
I'm a
have
member of the Korean forums, and you will never see them posting stuff like this is what we're doing and
All
things,
right. And you have
even in Korean.
Western teams share like everything. It's like, oh, here's
Every
here's this, here's
everything, everything, and then the VGL as well. A lot of the European teams come out there, so Unknown having done a lot of, they've got to the finals, right? I believe in the last VGL,
I believe so,
the
yeah.
European one. So all their progression in terms of all their games were available as well. So
Oh. Well, excited to see when I catch them. They're always great games and well put together. So I'm gonna try to make sure I keep watching them. And I think the finals are gonna be like probably just one of those games you're gonna show
yeah,
people a year from, like, look where Vainglory was and look at these teams at this time, and you need to watch this and get into this game.
yeah, it's fantastic what they're doing now, and a glimpse of the future. I think in terms of where we're going, and I think even Vainglory people have said that they're surprised with the pace. They never
Oh, for
envisioned
sure.
within a year of launch that this would be this competitive. Hundreds of thousands of dollars being spent for prize money and stuff,
Uh
which
huh.
is always how a lot of competitive gamers judge the viability of competitive game is what's the money pot. How
Sure.
much
Yeah.
money is a prize pool, and once you start getting up there, then people start to notice. And I think there's a professional team G2 or something like this.
Yeah. Gamers too.
Um, yeah, Gamers 2 that just mid team. So I think you'll start to see that happening more and more. You always know it's big when the Swedes start making teams and stuff. So maybe you'll see some of that happening here. It'll be interesting to see, and I think it's an opportunity for some of the Western countries to also get in on this because, like I said, OGN's gone in full, but they
Yeah.
have just recently got into this whole mobile gaming scene as well. So it's not like where it was PC gaming where the jump was completely in favor of the Korea, where they had the
Yeah.
infrastructure and all this. I think now everybody's on even footing. So it's very easy for some of the Western organizations to start to really ramp up this competitive part for Vainglory because they're in the same level as the Koreans are.
Yeah. Don't try to play catch up. Like be ahead of it. That's always
Yeah,
what you
or
need
even
to do.
like Counter Strike and some of these StarCraft and some of these other games in the past.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. The last bit of news mentioned, I'd like to mention the free hero rotation, and it's kind of a great one this week because Rona is available for everyone to play. With especially with her being changed in patch 1.8, it's a great time to give her a try and see if she's a hero that you want to pick up and try some more of. along with her is Scarf, Jewel, Saw, Kashka, and Glaive.
Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of missing your support, your tank. You don't have your Adagio or Catherine or Arden in this rotation. So you're getting those like, Rome Glaives and Rome
Yeah.
Jewels. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, a Scarf, it's worth mentioning Scarf has gotten really strong the last few patches.
uh-huh.
His Spitfires, if you rush a Shatterglass or a Broken Myth with his Spitfires, you can poke for like 500 damage with a Spitfire, and you get a Spitfire every 3 seconds. So I've been just poking people to death, like, death by 1,000 pokes, or in Scarf's
Yeah.
case, death by like 3.
I'm always pissed at how much damage Scarf does. It's like, really? Come on, like
Yeah.
that hit me? Like, no way.
Yeah, yeah, exactly right, exactly. And so but yeah, hey, before you have to remember where he used to be, where it was like nobody used him because he was
Yeah.
just so squishy and weak,
Mhm.
you know. And then they went overboard with the Fan the Flames going absolutely nuts at like level 1, where you
Right,
could just
yeah.
1v3 everybody at level 1, and then they scaled him down, and now they scale him up a little bit. So I
Right.
think where he's at now is actually quite good, and I think the beauty of mage characters is the skill level needs to be there. So there's a
Oh,
learning
yeah.
curve. And so in the past, I didn't like the fact that a lot of the characters that were supposedly supposed to be tough to play weren't, and they were made so that everybody could access them. I like what they're doing now, where they are, heroes that have high learning curves are high learning curves, and their skilled shots are skilled shots.
Right.
And so that's what I like about Scarf. Even though Spitfire does damage, you still need to aim it properly, and you still need to lead heroes on, and you need to know where they're going to walk to hit it because the speed is slower. So I like that.
Yeah.
I think, speaking of Saw, I think one thing I should mention too is the other thing for Sky that I wish they would change is the pass-through damage.
Okay.
So
For
right
the
now, what happens when you use her A skill, you're facing a pedal, her
her
minions will
barrage.
block her barrage, and so the damage won't pass through her minions to actually pedal. It's the same where the lane minions will now block her barrage, and it won't pass through to the hero.
Okay.
So the enemy can literally sit behind a shield of lane minions and not take any fire because all the lane minions will block it. And this was the problem with Scar Spitfire in the beginning,
Yeah.
where
And
the minions
Celeste.
blocked.
And Celeste
and
is all.
Celeste. Yeah. So they need to carry over that change to Sky, I think, as well. So it's got to pass through damage. It damages the minions, but it also passes through to do damage to the hero.
Right. So yeah, we might see that change for her, but it kind of also makes her kit a little different because she can kite so easily. So I think maybe that's the thought there. Like, you don't have to do that, or she has the
But
mobility.
only linear. So like her A skill's locked.
Yeah.
So it'd be different if you once you had auto lock, she
She
you
could
did her A
rotate
skill, she'd
around
rotate
that.
around it,
Okay.
and still be locked to target. But since you're stuck, the only option you have is to cancel it, move, wait for it to refresh, and then shoot again. But by that time, it's too late.
You're dead. Yeah.
You're dead, or you got to run.
But yeah, I think this is a fun lineup if you want to try some more carry champions, and if you don't, especially if you don't own like Scarf or Rona, who are fairly expensive, especially for new players getting into the game. So definitely check that out. Well, that's all the news, but I got a topic from the forums.
Forum static.
So on the forums, and this is kind of a big topic with the karma changes, is the dodging and insta-lock issues. So in previous patches, everyone bitches about this insta-locking thing, which, it's not great, but like, whatever. Like, it's a game, people like to play who they want to play. It's not a draft system, so I don't know, let it work itself out. But you could dodge the queue if you really didn't want to play and not be penalized. Now you are penalized for someone insta-locking someone that you don't agree with. Or if you picked lane and then they decided like, oh, I'll go lane 2. You can't leave without being like, well, I'm in trouble and I didn't do anything. I think that's what people are feeling. In this topic, people go back and forth, but you are kind of hurting a lot of people. You're hurting 5 other people in the game. You're not just thinking like, oh, I don't have to play that now. You stop 5 other people from starting their game. And I think people are forgetting that.
Yeah, it's a tough issue. It's a really tough issue because you have really 2 equal sides of the argument. I think you got to be sensitive to people's time because these games take a while. So if you're stuck in that and it's on the other side. And this is the favor of the dodging. So if you're stuck with people who do a dual lane because nobody wants to roam or whatever, and it's pretty much a lost game, but you're locked into it. You can't surrender for 6 or 7 minutes, so you're just stuck, and you're just that's it.
Yeah.
And you have to either play through it knowing that you're probably going to lose and a waste of your time, and that sucks because I hate that as well. But then on the other side, people that dodge because they don't get the character that they like or because they don't know how to play other characters, it kind of forces them to learn other characters as well. I mean,
Right.
it does also penalize favorite players who are just doing it because of selfish reasons, where they're just, I didn't get the character I wanted because he got it, so I'm going to screw him over, type of thing. I think that's also part of that.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, in terms of in high tiers, it's the only time I dodge is because I know that there's no synergy in that team comp. I think team comps are super, super, super important, and a lot of people don't put much emphasis on it. I put so much emphasis on team comps in competitive play. I think it can make or break a fight. And so when I see somebody pick a character that I don't think works, or two people lock a character and I see that it's not going to work really well, then I may dodge. But I don't really ever do it for selfish reasons because I can play a lot of different characters, but there's also the side where people have only been able to buy certain characters too.
Yeah.
Right? So they only have maybe a few characters available to them.
Especially if you just spent
only
a bunch
free hero.
if you just spent money and you bought Vox or let's say Sky, and it's like, well, I want to play Sky. Oh, someone picked Sky. I didn't get to play it, and I don't want to play like these, Ringo who I own, and you run into that.
Or maybe you're only stuck with free hero rotation, and there's no support, but you play support, right?
Sure, yeah.
Or there's characters that you don't know that those are the only characters you have.
Yeah.
So
I know the new karma system is there to kind of, it will even itself out at some point. Right now we're in like a weird spot where we all got set with good karma, and it's
all right.
It's like a weird spot right now. We're just like, we need a week or two and the karma level will like, get itself out. The trolls will be bad and you won't play with them. But with dodging too, what if you ran up against the guy that was just on your team that decided to ping you and you had to mute them and just was feeding, and then he queued again and he's on your team, and now you're losing karma because that person was a jerk, he reported them, and now you're on their team again.
Yeah, and it's really amazing with all the amount of active players they're supposed to have. You get matched up with the same people a lot, considering it's supposed to be random. It's just amazing. And people can snipe you now, for those of you who don't know, sniping is where you see somebody on stream or somebody who's in your queue on your friends list and you queue at the same time. And
That's a big issue.
It happens a lot. It's consistent. Like, you can consistently do that, and you're not supposed to because it's random. There's an algorithm that matches you randomly, and even among like SA or hotness, there's got to be a big enough player pool where you shouldn't be matching up with people, like that. Where I can be like, okay, I'm gonna snipe him. Oh, I sniped him. Like, you can literally do it 8 out of 10 times. You probably snipe him, which is too much. You shouldn't be able to do that 1 out of 10 times, maybe.
Right.
So I think your point you mentioned is really important. I think that's the other part of it.
Yeah, so I feel like maybe dodging shouldn't affect your karma, but you should still get that cooldown. Like, hey, you ruined people's games. Like, you get a cooldown. If you do it again, it's enhanced over and over again. And especially if you dodge because of a bug or a glitch or your iPad restarted, like, really, I lost karma now, and maybe I was on that edge of like good and bad karma, or even great karma and good karma, because great karma you get the reward. Like, oh, now I don't get a reward because your game crashed my system. Like,
or maybe what they do is they escalate it, so maybe you get one dodge free where it doesn't affect your karma. Yeah. But after the second and third one, then it starts to affect your karma. Maybe they can do that. Maybe, because I know some people get a lot of bugs.
So, it just happens. Any game has bugs in it. Like, it's a lot of code. So no, like, it's not a Vainglory problem. It's a game problem. There's bugs. It's a code problem.
So if somebody gets bugged and they get locked out or whatever at like the character select, which is the most common one. Yeah. Then you should you get one free. Give them one free pass. I think is the way to go.
But I don't really know if there's a great way to solve or deal with insta-lock for people besides a draft mode at some point. I think you just gotta just roll with it. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I used to play a lot of FIFA online, in the clubs mode, and there you actually lock in a position
okay.
in the character select. So you lock in, and only you can be a goalkeeper, for instance. So once you've locked in the goalkeeper first, you're the goalkeeper. No one
Oh,
else
okay.
can lock that in. So that could be something. I mean, somebody locks in
Rome or
Rome or
Lane.
something, or Lane, and then you cannot lock in another Rome character. Maybe,
But
I
then
don't know,
they're just gonna pick, another Lane character as like, all right, I'll be support
with a
Scarf.
Lane
Yeah.
character. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. I think draft mode. They've been talking about draft mode and stuff, so we'll see if that solves it. But ultimately, I guess for me, I don't see a huge problem in ranked. I think most of this interlocking happens in casual for me.
Right.
So I
Because
guess that's
yeah, in casual, like people want to play who they want to play. Like that's
yeah,
I got time for one game. I want to play Sky right now. I want to play
yeah,
Scarf. Like I don't want to play
yeah,
support. So
yeah.
that's what.
And then and the bright side of that is maybe that you get some cool off meta stuff happens for that. Maybe that being kind of a experimental ground isn't such a bad thing, because then that's
Mhm.
how innovation happens, is you're meshing together things that normally people wouldn't do, and maybe something good comes out of that carries off into ranked mode, I think.
True.
And so maybe that's how it is. I guess there's a disadvantage is that I think for me it's more improving the rank side, because for me casual mode is probably always going to be kind of a bit of a cesspool where you're going to get this like stuff happening, but the ranked areas where all the serious stuff is happening, where people are actually going to care, I think
Yeah.
hopefully in the future when the pool gets a bit bigger, what they can do is start separating out solo queue versus pre-made team queue in
Yeah.
ranked. Because right now, for me, the biggest issue is being a single player in a random team facing against 3 POA pre-made teams.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
no fun either.
so I think eventually in the future they need to have people who are random queuing by themselves. Truly solo queue are actually truly solo queue, and
Yeah.
pre-made teams are versus other pre-made teams.
Yeah.
Obviously, they can't do it now because the pool is still too small, but hopefully in the future.
Yeah. Things that'll change as the game goes on. But if you have anything to add to the dodging insta-lock topic, I'll include a link in the show notes. Go over there and add your opinion and see what other people are having to say. Like get in the fights that are on the forums sometimes. uh, but that'll do it for episode number 47. Autocorrect. Thank you for joining me this week. This is fantastic.
Thanks for having me. It's been my pleasure.
Where can people find your stream, Twitter, all that good stuff? One more time before we get out of here.
My Twitch stream, twitch.tv/autocorrect with a K. And you can always follow me on Twitter. I'm very active on Twitter. It's at AutoKorrect VG. Again, correct is spelled with a K and not a C.
Okay, cool. And you have
So you are getting autocorrect, the autocorrect.
And you have a very active Bindle chat, don't you?
Oh, yes. 166 members in Bindle as well. Hashtag Autobots is where you can find the room.
Nice.
And my YouTube account as well. You can just look for AutoKorrect as well in YouTube. I do Vainglory 101 sessions on Wednesdays, which is kind of like, I don't know if you know, Shin Kaigan does his Tutor Tuesdays.
Yeah.
So I have a session on Wednesdays where I help out new players, and I go over the free hero rotation. So I pick 2 characters from the free hero rotation, and I go through and I go into practice mode, and I talk about builds and how you should play them.
Oh, cool.
And then I go into the second part, which is where I'll do viewer games, and I'll competitively coach people in those viewer games, hotness level and below only. And I'll give them tips in terms of what they did wrong and how they should improve their gameplay. So that I do that on every Wednesday, and I upload those videos to my YouTube account.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. Great. Definitely check that out. I include links in the show notes and in the post as well. If you want to follow Shatter the Vain, it's on Twitter at Shatter the Vain. Website is shatterthevain.com. All the episodes get posted there. Links to all the stories we talk about. Links to iTunes where you can subscribe, leave a review. That's always helpful. More people can, follow the show, find it, get into Vainglory, and let them know about the show. And then the Facebook page, facebook.com/shatterthevain. news, other things I post there that I find about Super Evil or Vainglory. So head over there, like it up as well. And that'll do it for this week's episode. Thanks for listening.
Shatter the Vain.